You're trespassing, and I'm calling the police right now. I still can't believe those words actually came out of Vanessa Hartwell's mouth the day my grandfather quietly walked back onto his own land for the first time in 5 years. I was standing right there, hands shaking, watching the self-important HOA president dial 911 on a 75-year-old man whose only crime was wanting to come home. And you want to know what really threw me? Grandpa Gabriel didn't argue, didn't raise his voice. He just gave this little half smile I'd never seen before, almost like he'd been waiting for this exact fight his whole life. I learned something that day. Quiet people, the ones you never hear coming, sometimes have the loudest secrets of all. Let me take you back for a sec, set the scene a little. My grandfather Gabriel Stone, retired hydraulic engineer, a living legend, to us bought this slice of lakefront paradise back in 1960. It was just a rustic fishing cabin and a half-rotten dock, but he built it up with his bare hands. For decades, that was his sanctuary, until my grandmother passed and he just couldn't be there anymore. Too many ghosts, you know. He moved to the city, tried to be closer to family, but that cabin waited for him, just sitting quiet like it was holding its breath. About 3 months ago, Grandpa told us he was finally ready to come back. Wanted to fix up the old place, do a little fishing, maybe find some peace. The cabin needed a miracle, to be honest, and his first priority was always the dock. He'd say, "That dock'll outlast us all," like it was a family member. But the minute we rolled up with lumber stacked in the old pickup, Vanessa Hartwell, the infamous Viper Hartwell, HOA president and part-time dictator, came strutting down the street, iPad in hand, hair sprayed into something NASA could use to shield the space shuttle. She didn't even bother with a neighborly hello, just launched right into her script about unpermitted structures and aesthetic harmony. She actually said my grandfather's cabin ruined the lakefront view from her $2 million McMansion, and the rules had changed since he left. You could smell the desperation on her. Turns out Vanessa had been fighting for years to get some big resort project approved, but someone with priority rights kept getting in the way, and she never realized that person was Grandpa because he'd been gone. His return was the last thing she wanted. She rattled off all these bogus new HOA bylaws, tried to hand Grandpa a cease and desist letter, and threatened a $5,000 fine if he so much as sneezed near the dock. Now, I'm not usually one to get in the middle, but seeing this lady try to steamroll my grandfather, who literally built half this community with his own hands, just about sent me over the edge. When I tried to step in, Vanessa didn't even blink, just turned to me with that dead inside smile and said, "This is adult business, young man," like I was 10. Grandpa never lost his cool, though. He just quietly told her he'd bought the land in 1960 from Mr. Harrison, one of the 3 original owners, and never signed over so much as a patch of grass. But that just made her double down, shouting about community property and trespassing. She actually called the police. And you know what's wild? They showed up 2 squad cars, sirens and all, like he was some kind of criminal mastermind, not a retired engineer in a fishing vest. The whole neighborhood came out to gawk. The cops officer Martinez and his partner stood there awkwardly listening to Vanessa's dramatic accusations. Then to Grandpa, calmly explaining he'd never given up his land. The officers pretty much told everyone to sort it out through the courts and left, but the damage was done. My grandfather, this proud, gentle old man, humiliated in front of everyone. But instead of breaking down, Grandpa got quiet. That night he barely said a word, just sat at the table, eyes locked on the lake, a strange fire back in his stare. Next morning he turned to me and said, "Elijah, it's time we found out what Mrs. Hartwell actually owns around here." That's when I knew the fight was on. We started with Frederick Donovan, a 70-year-old neighbor and veteran of more HOA battles than anyone could count. He'd been hit with fines for planting the wrong flowers, for God's sake. Frederick told us Vanessa had been cleaning out old HOA records to cover up any evidence of original property rights, ours included. He suggested we dig through Grandpa's old documents, and man, did we ever. We turned that cabin upside down, but it wasn't until Grandpa remembered a loose floorboard in the back bedroom left over from one of Grandma's epic cleaning sprees that we struck gold. Hidden in a rusty old tin box were papers dating all the way back to 1958, insurance-faded letters, and most important, a land survey map showing Grandpa's lot 12B with handwritten notes saying rights valid only if property stays with original owner. Suddenly we realized why Vanessa was so desperate. If Grandpa kept the land, her whole empire of HOA rules meant nothing on that stretch of shore. But Vanessa didn't back off. She started sending fake environmental inspectors to block access, putting up contamination signs, even HOA volunteers with clipboards acting like they were government agents. It was pure intimidation, all smoke and mirrors, but the neighbors fell for it. I posted the survey map online, trying to rally support, but Vanessa had it deleted and banned me from the group. That's when Frederick, bless him, dug up something huge buried in old HOA files. Was proof that my grandfather, as one of the 3 founding property owners, had veto power over any lakefront development or regulation. Permanent. Irrevocable. The HOA's own founding documents gave him final say. We brought in Grandpa's old college buddy, Oliver Kent, now a real estate attorney, and when he saw the paperwork, he started laughing, a kind of disbelieving, giddy laugh. Oliver cross-checked county records and confirmed it. Not only did Grandpa own the property, but every HOA property-only sign was sitting smack in the middle of his legal land. Vanessa's whole campaign was built on a lie. Vanessa, of course, tried to counterattack. She hired a so-called property consultant who turned out to be a disbarred fraudster to whip the neighbors into a frenzy. But Oliver stayed patient, building our case, watching for the next move. Then came the master stroke. Frederick uncovered the original developer's partnership agreement. Grandpa wasn't just a landowner, he was listed as a co-developer, giving him a founder's veto over any HOA decision affecting the lake. If the land was never sold or transferred, that power lasted forever. At the next HOA meeting, packed, tense neighbors glaring. Oliver laid it all out, document by document, contract by contract. Frederick called out Vanessa's suspicious financials. People started shifting in their seats, realizing just how deep her corruption ran. And then Vanessa lost it. She hired armed security to guard the shoreline, accused Grandpa of trying to destroy everyone's property value, sent newsletters warning the sky would fall if the HOA lost control. She even tried to dissolve the HOA entirely, hoping to dodge the original bylaws, but the founding agreement followed the land, not the name. There was no way out. The final showdown came at a public meeting where Vanessa planned to drop her nuclear bomb, a fake environmental report bought and paid for by a Dr. Murphy, who was actually a retired dentist from Florida, not a scientist. She was in the middle of presenting when Detective Wilson from the county sheriff's office walked in with 2 deputies and announced Vanessa's arrest for embezzling HOA funds, insurance fraud, and conspiracy. The silence in that room. You could have heard a pin drop. Vanessa was still screaming about conspiracies as they cuffed her, swearing she'd get her revenge, but nobody was buying it anymore. Local news picked up the story. Neighbors started coming clean about years of intimidation and financial abuse, and property values actually rose once she was gone. Within a week, her husband filed for divorce. Her assets were frozen, and she had to sell her McMansion to pay restitution. Frederick was elected new HOA president and immediately set term limits, financial transparency, and made Grandpa honorary chairman for life. My grandfather even opened part of his shore for public fishing. He said justice should mean something for everyone, not just a piece of paper. The best part, Vanessa's neglected golden retriever Duchess found a new home with our neighbor Rosa. Watching that dog run along the dock at sunrise was all the poetic justice anyone could ask for. 6 months later, we held the first annual Lake Freedom Festival, families fishing, swimming, laughing together. Grandpa's dock, once a battleground, now had a little plaque, Justice Prevails 2024. Sometimes the quietest folks really do win the loudest victories. You know what I mean? So what do you think? Was Grandpa right to fight back? Or did the community lose something by tearing itself apart? Is justice really that simple? Or do you think another Vanessa's always waiting in the wings? Drop your thoughts below. Let's hear what justice means to you, because every neighborhood's got a story, and this one's just getting started.